So, the biggest sporting event on planet Earth is just weeks away. 5 million fans are expected to flood into North America. 48 nations are ready to compete. The world is watching. And right now, right at this very moment, 5 of the most important host cities for the 2026 FIFA World Cup are staring down some of the most serious, most alarming problems anyone could have imagined this close to kickoff. We're talking about missing hundreds of millions of dollars in security funding, fans who literally cannot enter the country, hotels that can't fill their rooms, construction that's destroying neighborhoods, and a growing fear that this entire tournament could be in chaos before the first ball is even kicked. This is not clickbait. This is not a drill. This is happening right now, and today I'm going to break it all down for you. Welcome back. If you're new here, and I can tell a lot of you are, hit that subscribe button right now and smash the like button. We cover the biggest stories in soccer, sports politics, and everything in between. And this story right here is one of the most important things happening in sports right now. So buckle up, because we are going deep. Let's start with the big picture because you need to understand what's at stake. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is not your average tournament. This is the first ever 48-team World Cup in history. It spans 3 countries, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It involves 16 different host cities across an entire continent. There are going to be 104 matches total, and the US alone is hosting 60 of them. That includes every single game from the quarterfinals all the way to the final at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. 5 million fans are expected to attend. Tens of billions of dollars in economic activity are on the table, and the tournament is set to generate a projected 19 billion views globally, making it the most watched sporting event in the history of television. This is a massive, massive deal. But here's the thing, when something is this big, the problems are big too. And right now, there are problems, serious ones, that have been brewing for months and have exploded into full crisis mode just weeks before the opening match. Let's go city by city and break down exactly what is going wrong. Let's start with Miami, one of the most high-profile host cities in America, and right now one of the most stressed. Miami was supposed to host an incredible 23-day fan fest, a giant public celebration zone where fans from all over the world could gather, watch matches on massive screens, enjoy live music, and experience the full energy of the World Cup, even without a ticket. It was going to be one of the crown jewels of the entire tournament experience. But here's what happened. Miami has been waiting and waiting for $70 million in federal funds to make it happen, and as of just days ago, that money still had not arrived. At a hearing before the House Homeland Security Committee, the chief operating officer of the Miami World Cup Host Committee, Ray Martinez, sat in front of Congress and said something that should shake every soccer fan in America. He said, and I am not paraphrasing here, that without receiving this money, it could be catastrophic for their planning and coordination. He said matches at the stadium would still happen, but the fan festivals, the watch parties, the public events that fans without tickets are counting on, those are all in serious jeopardy. He even gave a deadline. He said generously, within the next 30 days is what he called the drop-dead date. The drop-dead date. For a World Cup event in America, weeks before kickoff. Let that sink in. Now let's talk about New Jersey because this is where it gets even more dramatic. New Jersey is hosting the biggest match of the entire tournament, the World Cup final, the championship game, the one moment that a billion people around the world will tune in to watch. It's happening at MetLife Stadium. And New Jersey had originally planned a massive tournament-long fan fest at Liberty State Park in Jersey City, a multi-week outdoor celebration that was supposed to be one of the defining public moments of the entire event for the host region. Fans had already bought tickets to it. People had already made plans. And then it got canceled. The entire thing canceled. Governor Mickey Sherrill's office announced that instead of the large fan fest, they were allocating just $5 million for smaller, more localized events scattered throughout the competition. Fans who had purchased tickets to the original Liberty State Park Fan Fest are now getting refunds. Think about that for a second. The city hosting the World Cup final had to cancel its fan festival and give refunds. This is the kind of thing that you never expect to hear about a World Cup host. But this is exactly what is happening right now. And the reason both Miami and New Jersey are in this position comes down to a single staggering number, $625 million. That is the amount of money that Congress approved, specifically allocated, to help the 11 US host cities pay for security operations, fan fests, and all the infrastructure needed to safely run a World Cup on American soil. Congress passed this funding as part of legislation last year. The plan was for the Department of Homeland Security, through FEMA, to distribute these grants to all 11 host cities. But here's where everything broke down. The money never came. Months passed. Cities waited. Then more months passed. A government shutdown involving the Department of Homeland Security created massive delays, putting key FEMA staff on administrative leave, the exact people responsible for reviewing and processing these very grants. And cities were left in limbo. They couldn't finalize contracts, they couldn't procure equipment, they couldn't hire security personnel, they couldn't plan anything with certainty. With less than 100 days to kick off, host cities across America were running blind. In Boston, another major host city, local officials met in February and had an absolutely stunning exchange with World Cup organizers. A member of the town's select board told representatives from the Boston 2026 host committee and FIFA that he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that they were sitting in front of him with no idea where the security money was coming from. His exact words, "I gotta be honest with you, it baffles my mind that you guys are sitting here in front of me right now and how we still have no idea where this money's coming from." That was a local official talking to FIFA at a public meeting in February for a tournament that starts in June. Boston eventually got a commitment from the Kraft Group to cover a potential shortfall of around $8 million, but the fact that a private company had to step in to back up federal funding for a World Cup event tells you everything about how broken this process has been. Kansas City is in a similar position. Representatives from Kansas City testified at the same congressional hearing alongside Miami and New Jersey, all of them raising alarms about the same missing federal funds. Kansas City is set to host 6 World Cup games with events running from June 11th through July 19th. Local officials were still waiting on grant notifications with planning deadlines flying past them. On top of that, Kansas City faces its own unique logistical challenge, getting enough public transit to handle the flood of fans arriving from the airport to the stadium and surrounding event locations. Hotel room availability was described by a local congresswoman as a work in progress, which is a very polite way of saying there aren't enough rooms and they're scrambling to fix it. Now let's talk about a problem that is affecting not just 5 cities but every single U.S. host city, and it's one of the most complicated and politically charged issues surrounding this entire tournament. I'm talking about visas and travel bans, and right now this is creating a situation that could fundamentally change what this World Cup looks and feels like. Here's the background. In June of 2025, President Trump issued a proclamation restricting or limiting entry for nationals from 19 countries, mostly from the Middle East and Africa. Then in December 2025, that list was expanded to 39 nations. And that is not all. As of April 2026, a visa bond program was expanded to cover citizens from 50 countries, requiring them to pay a bond of up to $15,000 just to travel to the U.S. temporarily. $15,000 just to possibly enter the country, not as a guarantee, just for the chance to apply. The impact of this on the World Cup is enormous. There are fans from qualified World Cup nations, including Côte d'Ivoire, Haiti, Iran, and Senegal, who are subject to these travel bans and cannot attend matches in the United States, even if they already have tickets, even if they went through the FIFA priority scheduling system called FIFA Pass, which was set up specifically to give ticket holders faster visa appointments. Even that doesn't guarantee entry. An immigration attorney in Dallas put it bluntly just days ago. Some fans are going to show up at the port of entry with valid visas and still get turned away. They're going to be left holding their tickets, unable to get in. And then there's the case of Iran, one of the most jaw-dropping subplots of this entire World Cup. Iran's national team qualified for the tournament. There is normally a clear exemption for athletes, coaches, and immediate family. But due to the ongoing geopolitical tensions, President Trump posted on Truth Social raising questions about the safety of Iranian players should they travel. The Iranian team's participation has been hanging in the air with uncertainty that is absolutely without precedent in World Cup history. You have a qualified team whose ability to even show up to compete was genuinely in question just weeks before the tournament. That is extraordinary, and it speaks to how deeply real-world politics have embedded themselves into what is supposed to be a celebration of global unity. Let's also zoom out to Mexico City for a moment, because the problems there are more personal, more human, and in some ways more heartbreaking than anything happening at a government level. Mexico City's Estadio Azteca is one of the most iconic stadiums in the world. It's about to become the first stadium in history to host 3 World Cup opening matches. That's a historic achievement. But the renovation work to get it ready has been accelerating at a brutal pace, and the people who live nearby are paying a very real price for it. Residents in the Santa Ursula neighborhood, right near the stadium, have been dealing with water outages caused by construction crews accidentally breaking underground pipes and water tanks. One resident described waking up with no water because a pipe was broken by construction work the night before. Another man who has lived through 2 previous World Cups in the same neighborhood said the water flow has decreased considerably and that with every supposed improvement, There's always something working against the local community. His words were measured, but they carried decades of frustration. People in his neighborhood are filling buckets from shared taps just to have water for daily use. While the Mexican president frames the World Cup as a defining moment for the nation and promises billions of dollars in economic benefits, residents right outside the stadium say they're still waiting for economic benefits from past tournaments to reach their doorstep. And this raises a deeper question that applies to every single host city, not just in Mexico, but across the United States and Canada too. Who actually benefits from hosting the World Cup? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. According to financial analysts, most of the direct commercial revenues from the World Cup go to FIFA and its global sponsors. The costs of security, transportation, cleaning, public services, and logistics, those fall on local governments and taxpayers. Civil organizations in the United States have warned that the explosion of short-term rentals and tourism activity is deepening housing problems and widening social inequality in host cities. There are warnings about rising rents and urban displacement in several locations. The people who already live there, the everyday residents, end up dealing with construction disruption, crowded streets, inflated prices, and quality of life disruptions, while the massive financial rewards flow somewhere else. Speaking of prices, let me tell you what's happening with hotels, because this situation is one of the most unexpected twists in this entire story. You would think that with 5 million fans descending on North America, hotels would be packed solid right now. You'd think every room would be booked months in advance. You'd think hotels would be turning people away, but that is not what is happening. A new survey from the American Hotel and Lodging Association found that nearly 80% of hotels across World Cup host cities say their bookings are currently below expectations. Let me repeat that. 80% of hotels. Below expectations. Some locations are reportedly performing worse than a normal summer period, with Kansas City among the cities seeing especially weak demand. Hotels that jacked up their prices by 300, 400, even 457%. Houston had the highest hotel price spike of any U.S. city at 457%, are now sitting on empty rooms that nobody is booking. And the reason comes back to everything we've been talking about. Between 65 and 70% of hoteliers surveyed pointed to visa barriers and geopolitical uncertainty as the key reasons suppressing international demand. Fans from all over the world who would normally flood into a World Cup host country just aren't coming because they can't get visas, because they're scared of immigration enforcement, because CBP agents are searching travelers' phones at ports of entry at an increasing rate, because they've read the news and they're nervous. On top of that, FIFA itself made the situation worse by canceling thousands of hotel reservations across host cities in the US, Mexico, and Canada, a move they called routine but which sent shockwaves through the hotel industry and left operators scrambling. Fans who were planning to attend found their accommodations suddenly gone. It created confusion, frustration, and more uncertainty in an environment that already had too much of both. FIFA was caught off guard too. Intelligence from the U.S. National Counterterrorism Center has confirmed an increase in threats targeting stadiums and public events. The projected 19 billion views worldwide makes this tournament a uniquely attractive target for bad actors. FEMA has now awarded $846 million in grants to 9 states to enhance security, cybersecurity, and emergency response, including more than $221 million specifically for counter-drone systems to protect venues from aerial threats. Let that sink in. Counter-drone systems. At a soccer tournament, this is the level of security concern we are dealing with. And look, I want to be clear about something important. The 2026 World Cup is still happening. The matches will be played. The greatest players on earth will take the field. Lionel Messi might be in his final World Cup. Kylian Mbappe is in his prime. Jude Bellingham, Pedri, Lamine Yamal. These are generational talents who are going to put on a show that the world will remember forever. Nothing about the problems we've discussed changes the fact that the on-field product is going to be spectacular. And some of these logistical challenges are getting addressed. FEMA is now moving on security grants. Some cities have found private funding bridges, and preparations are ramping up. The tournament will happen. But the real story, the story that history will judge, is the story of how we got here. How the biggest World Cup ever hosted on American soil almost stumbled its way to the starting line. How cities were left without security funding for months. How fans from dozens of nations were shut out. How residents living in the shadows of iconic stadiums lost their water supply. How hotels banked on demand that never materialized. How a global celebration of sport got tangled up in government shutdowns, geopolitical conflicts, and a billion-dollar funding fight in Congress. This is the real story of the 2026 World Cup, and not enough people are talking about it. So let me ask you something right now, because this is where I want your opinion. Do you think the United States is actually ready to host this World Cup? Do you think these problems are going to be solved in time? Or do you think we're heading into a tournament that is going to be defined as much by its chaos as by its soccer? Drop your answer in the comments right now. Seriously, I read every single comment, and this is one of those conversations where I genuinely want to know what you think. And if you know someone who's planning to attend the World Cup or someone who can't attend because of visa issues, share this video with them. They need to see this. They need to know what's actually going on. Because here's the bottom line. The 2026 FIFA World Cup was sold to the world as the greatest celebration of soccer ever assembled on North American soil. A tournament of historic firsts, the most teams, the most matches, the most countries, the most fans, and on paper, it still can be all of that. But with just weeks to go, the gap between what was promised and what is actually in place in several of these host cities is wide enough to drive a truck through. Miami is scrambling for money. New Jersey canceled its Fan Fest. Kansas City is still waiting. Fans from dozens of countries can't get visas. Residents near the Azteca can't get water. Hotels can't fill their rooms. Security funding sat frozen for months, and a $625 million check from Congress is only now starting to move. This is one of the most important and underreported stories in sports right now, and we're going to keep following it all the way to the final whistle on July 19th. If you want to stay up to date on everything that is happening with this World Cup, the good, the bad, and the chaotic, subscribe to this channel right now. Click that notification bell so you don't miss a single update, and leave a comment below telling me which host city you think is most at risk going into this tournament. I'll be reading every single one. Thank you for watching. Let's see how this all plays out.